Okay.
Not anymore. I still do feel fine.
We're starting off today with a little mummy. And this is from a book, a clay book I found years and years ago, like 10 years ago. And I made this little guy. And he's holding a sign that says, "Trick or treat, smell my feet." It's made of, you'll need polymer clay, toothpicks, and other stuff. You'll see along as we go along. Anyway, start off with your polymer clay though. Here's my little big-footed guy. He's very old. His leg's actually broken, but for Halloween he still sits up and he's fine. You can see his little face there. He has a happy face, beads for eyeballs, stuff like that. Start off with Fimo. What color do I have here? Number 43. You guys always want to know. Flesh pink. That's what we have. I'm going to warm this up, condition it in the pasta machine, warm it all up, and I'll be right back. What I'm doing here is I've made the ball, and I made it completely round, and then I kind of roll it a little bit like back and forth like this to make it a little squished. Not too much though. You still want it rounded. And then I take it right in the middle of my hands and press it together. Press my hands together gently. That gives it your nice rounded shape. But it also gives it a whole bunch of little tiny lines that I don't think you can see very well because the light's so dang bright. And just use your fingers or the end of a little paintbrush. I like using my fingers more than anything to smooth it. And this is going to be your little bald mummy. Now I need 2 eyeballs. Okay. I'm using 2 much light. Oh my. Alright, let's try that. So you take one little bead. These are 4mm beads. Got them at Hobby Lobby. Get just about everything at Hobby Lobby. And just take your bead. You can use any color eyeball you want. Don't worry about getting it dirty, your clay dirty, because most of it's going to be wrapped. Alright, so this is upside down to you. See? And his eyes don't look the same size because one of them's pushed in more, so just kind of do that. Take a little piece of clay for his nose. Gonna give him a nice big nose. There we go. Not that big. Take a little ball, roll it oblong, and flatten it. Shoot a little round nose. And you put the little nose on there. You can make him have a silly nose or a cute nose. Tiny, if you do a tiny nose, it's probably like a baby, and a big nose is more like a guy. Then you take, anything. Take a pen or a pencil or a toothpick, draw a little happy face. You're not really drawing, you're really pressing. Because he's a happy dead mummy. Let's see what I do there. Are you catching all this? Just kinda. He's a happy little guy. There you go, buddy. Now we're going to make his eyes look better. Kind of push them close together, not too far apart. Going to make tiny little, can you see his little smile? Yeah, there he goes. Little eye creases. He's a happy little fella. Happy little guy. There we go. Now something's missing here. Let me see. Yeah, maybe just a little definition on the inside. Not too much. There's our happy little guy. And we're going to skewer him. Here's his neck. And you know what? We're going to wait until we have the body. So just put this little guy aside. He gets to get out of being skewered for the moment. And he's going to be right in my way, I'm afraid. Okay. Well, this is where you would use scrap clay for the body. Let me see if I can get some scrap clay. Color, as long as it's a light color, it's not going to really matter. It could be gray or white, something like that. You could use glow-in-the-dark, but it uses a lot of clay and glow-in-the-dark, so well, I guess it's the same price, but I don't know. It's crumbly, usually. I'm warming this up in my hands. I'm making the body. This is old white clay. You see how dirty and disgusting it is? I mean, I can just go all over, pick up the dirt. It won't matter one bit. Look, there's lint from the fabric. It doesn't matter. So, here is the little body. Remember his head, because he's like a cartoon, he's a happy little mummy, more like a cartoon, and cartoons have very large heads. If you've never noticed, they do. And so, I'm making the body here. Just like that. There's his body. I'm going to flatten the top. And he's going to be sitting, so flatten the bottom. I'm just squishing it like this way. And that's going to be all covered up. Very small body comparatively. To make arms and legs, when you take the clay, you warm it up. You always warm it up. Really, really helps. Oh my. Okay, then we're going to make the legs first since I have quite a bit here. Make a little snake just like you did back in kindergarten. And let's see. I'm going to take off even more of that. That's about half. If you make one snake and fold it in half, and then you'll have identical sized legs. And you're going to take one leg. Let me move this little guy. And you're going to roll it out. But you're only going to roll it really, really tiny. Like the size of a number 2 pencil. You're going to roll it out. And then you're going to shape the foot. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be sloping. Like this would be the right foot, and you see the big toe would be bigger and the little toe would go down a little bit, so you kind of sideways. Go sideways on there. And you want the feet to be big and funny, but you don't want them too flat, because then it wouldn't look like it used to be alive. You're going to take the toes here and chop them off. So you have a toeless foot. Your leg is very scrawny, and then at the end, since the body is going to sit on it, you're going to flatten it, completely flatten there, and it's going to sit on it. So you have a very weird shaped leg, and here are your toes. You're going to have a big toe, another toe. Anyway, make 5 different toes, different sizes. Here we are with our 5 little balls, and I have a nail with a little head on it. And what I've done, on the edge where the toes are going to attach, I've kind of scraped up the clay a little bit, and that's just so it has more texture for the little toes to attach to. Take your big toe. Just kind of press him on there. Here. Maybe you can see it better like this. Remember, they're cartoony, so they're kind of big and fun, and don't beat yourself up over being perfect. You can squish them together to make all 5 fit. There you have a very wide foot. You can squish them some more if you want. And now, using your little nail, we're going to make toenails. You ready? Now let's see if you can see that. See all those little toenails? If it were a girl mummy, you could even paint them. Anyway, it's going to be sitting so the back can be flat. It'll be alright. This is the right foot, and then you do the same on the left foot, except of course you make it slope the other direction. once you have both feet, which I don't have yet, and oh, my mummy has a really long leg here compared to his body. I'm going to take a toothpick, break it in half, put the pointed part into the body. Try and make that as flat as possible. And I can see that that's going to be a little too big, even for him. So, cut off a little. Redo it. Put that on there. Okay, now I'm going to get the other leg made and put him on. That's what we have so far. Alright, so here's my little guy with his 2 feet. And he's sitting down. Sweep sideways or straight up and down, whatever you want. But try and get him straight because bones are supposed to be straight. He's supposed to have bones. And next we'll do arms. For the arm, you're going to do a baseball shape where it's fatter on one end and gets smaller and smaller. And then when you make it too small on one end, you're going to push it back up because that's going to be your hand. We're not going to do fingers. This is very rudimentary. So we're going to kind of squish on the back here. And you want to make like an elbow. Oops. Make it flattened out here because this is going to wrap around his little body. Put one arm on already, so you guys can see. I'm going to wrap around and then I'm going to widen out his hand just by doing that and curling his fingers. He kind of looks like a monkey man with really long arms here. So you can always cut that down, squish out some more, make it shorter, and sit around like that. At this point, you could take a toothpick, cut it down pretty small. I like to use the point to actually be the part that goes through it, and jab it in to his body like so. Now, you're going to need some fabric, some cotton type fabric, and then cut it into strips and just run your fingers along the edges to roughen it up. And this is going to make your wraps for the mummy wrapping. Start on the end of the limbs and work your way in. And you're going to overlap each time around just a tiny bit. Off-white fabric works the best, but white, which is what I have, we can stain it. Now I've wrapped him up everything except one leg, and this leg here I've come down to the foot, and I need to pin that on there somehow. And if you can get it to stay, that's great, but if not, I would use liquid Fimo or liquid Sculpey, because it's just clay that's liquid, and that will, when it bakes on there, it'll be a very nice glue. Then it'll stay. Since I'm using it anyway, I'll go ahead and put some extra around there. Might even put a few in a little bit in the crevices where you can't see. Straighten up the weak parts, which would be where the legs would break off and the arms. And while I'm at it, might as well put a little there where the head's going to go on. I'll do the leg in a minute. Yeah, here we go. Let's see, go this way. You have, let's see, I want the head sitting on, like, you want it back just a little bit. So, kind of figure it out as you go. There's my little guy. Now, keep in mind I haven't wrapped his leg or his head, but here he is basically. And I'll keep wrapping him and then I'll show you Alright, now I have the little mummy all wrapped up. He's still soft. And I'm going to pull out my soft pastels, the chalk pastels, any kind of brand. And of course, mummies have dirty feet because they've been walking around with no shoes. So I'm going to take the brown and put it on his toes. Mummies are not the cleanest. And get it on the fabric too, because that's where the dirt would be. And it really adds definition all over those toenails. So that's good. Now, can you see the toenails there? Anyway, so do that to both feet. All over the place. Okay, both his feet are done, and I got his little face. I put a little bit of red on there, so he looks really dirty. Let's see. Get a little red around his mouth. Give it some more definition. And then I'm going to take some ochre color and get that all over his clothes, because old clothes should be yellowed. And I didn't have yellow. You can also use any kind of eye makeup for the chalk. You don't have to go buy pastels, but they're cheaper than, well, than most makeups. Anyway, do that all over him. Okay, now that you made your little guy all dirty, take a, I used a, what do you call that? Like a barbecue stick, something, you know, a skewer, and broke it in half and made the little sign out of cardboard, like cardboard paper, cardstock paper, I mean. Take his hand, wrap it around, and it's clay, it's soft clay still, so it'll still stick, and get it to stand up. You have to fiddle with it for a while. You could put a glass jar in the oven if you want, or just take this sign out. Just get the right shape in his hand, and then take this sign out, and then bake him just like that, however you want him to look. And then when he comes out, he'll be ready to be decoration on something and saying, trick or treat, smell my feet. Then he has the big feet.